Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello. So, short anecdote. You might have noticed it's 10:01, and that's because I just spent the whole last minute speaking to you as if I'm live when I wasn't live yet. Like I connected the stream from OBS, but I didn't actually click go live on YouTube. So I was just talking to myself for about a minute. But now hopefully I am talking to actual people. If that is the case, then please let me know. It would be nice to know that you can hear me, that you can see me. I just got a smiley face, so that's already a good sign. Hello, hello, Deep Purple. Hello, hello. Wow, okay, lots of people. Hello, Reed. Hello, Choe. Hello, Burgonis. Sorry, I hope I'm pronouncing all the names correctly. Hello, David. Thank you all for joining. As we kind of wait for some people to join on, since today we're going to be building a weather app inside of Wix Studio, so it would be nice to know how the weather is by everybody. So let me know, like Deep Purple, where you are and what the weather is. I am currently in New York. I'm in Queens, and this morning it was a bit rainy. Like the really like it's annoying kind of rain that's like slanted at an angle that you like sneaks up under your umbrella and hits you in the face. Now I think it has stopped already. It does seem to still be a little windy, maybe a little cloudy. So kind of typical New York, um, on and off weather. Other days it's been like boiling hot. So yeah, we're hoping for a nice spring soon. I see we have sunny and warm here, nice and sunny in Israel, Estonia, San Francisco, 55 degrees. Okay, so I think for San Francisco, that's kind of cool, maybe. I don't know. I know California is on the warmer side. Um, okay, great. So I think we can get started. And the first thing that we're going to want to do, so this is going to be a code along. We're going to be doing a project together. So I hope that you guys have kind of Wix Studio open already. If not, then I would hop in and go and open up a blank Wix Studio website. I see Singapore, nighttime, hot and rainy. I think that's always the weather in Singapore, if I'm not mistaken. Bangalore, I've never been. By the way, Deep Purple, I don't know if you know, but the upcoming Wix DevCon, if I'm not mistaken, is going to be in Bangalore. I'm curious, I don't know if maybe you're planning on attending. Taiwan, cool night. Very nice. Um, whoa, 80. Scottsdale, that's pretty high. Okay, so in order to get started with this app, you're going to want to obviously have Wix Studio open. But the other thing that we're going to have to do is to go ahead and sign up for this weather API. Obviously, there are a lot of different weather APIs out there. I chose this one actually because it's a bit nostalgic for me. This is the first API that I ever used when I was taking a course on Udemy by Angela Yu, or maybe Dr. Angela Yu, I forget. Um, and this is the API that she used to teach about how to use APIs and how to call their endpoints and stuff like that. It has changed a bit since I used it personally. Since I used it, sorry, that first time. And they've added in like new tiers and stuff like that, but there still is some free access. So please, if you haven't done so already, hop over to the Open Weather Map uh, site. I'll go ahead and I'll send that link in the chat just so you can easily go and get that. And yeah, so just sign up. It's free. Again, you'll have to give them like your email or something. And then once you have signed up, we're going to want to explore the different APIs. So here we have one call API, which this one is kind of the newer special one that requires special sign up and it's costs money. But if we scroll down, then here we have a few different ones that we still have access to. So for example, if we check out this current weather data API, if I go ahead and I click subscribe here, then we can see here that it's included here in the free tier. Okay, so we can get current weather, we can get 3-hour forecast for 5 days. I guess we'll see what's included there. And we'll explore some of these other endpoints. I don't know exactly what will be free and what will not be free. Okay, so here this one also has a free tier. So most of these seem to also be free. And it really depends on what you want to include inside of your own weather application. Obviously, we're going to want current weather. We'll want some kind of forecast, but we'll see how we'll pull it all together. And once you sign up for the API key, what we're going to want to do is store that API key inside of the Wix secret manager. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here and I'm going to go to my API key and I'm going to show you my API key, which is something that you should never do. I need to sign in or sign up. Okay. You also got to see my email there. If you're watching, you can send me an email. But basically, this is the API key. Generally, you don't want to share API keys with other people. Since I don't have any, credit card or anything associated with this account, the worst thing that can happen is that somebody can, use up all my free credits. So please don't do that. Please don't use my API key. Please use your own. And you can also create multiple ones, but you should really only need one for the sake of this tutorial. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to grab this API key. Just going to go ahead and copy it. And I'm going to head over to the secrets manager to paste it in there. If I'm talking too fast, you can't find something, you're having trouble keeping up, please don't hesitate to write me a comment. Hi Juan, thanks for joining. And I will answer questions. I mean, we're doing this together for a reason, so I'm here so that you succeed and not so that I succeed. So please do let me know if you have any questions or if something is unclear. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab that API key. And then I'm going to head here into the Wix Studio Editor. And I haven't done so yet, so I'm just going to go ahead and click here, Start Coding. And it's setting up developer mode. And let's see if my Zoom works in live stream. It does. Awesome. So now we're going to want to go over here to Developer Tools. And here we can see access to the Secrets Manager. Okay, right over here. And you can also access this through the site dashboard. So if you go into the dashboard and then go over here on the bottom to Developer Tools, then we can have the Secrets Manager. And I'm going to go ahead and paste that. Sometimes it takes the Secrets Manager a little bit of time to load. There we go. So you go over here and you click Store Secret, and then put it in, and you can just double check that it looks okay, and that like the cursor here is at the end of the secret and not like the next line. Sometimes that happens. And then what we'll want to do here is we'll want to name it. So I'll just call this OpenWeather Key. And I'll go ahead and click Save here on the bottom. So we've stored this API key. And before we even hop into the backend of our website to try and call this API, I want to just try calling it in the browser, because this is actually a pretty simple API. So let me go over here. I'm going to open this in a new tab, API. Like all the requests are pretty much GET requests. So we can actually just call this in the browser. I'm going to open up, let's say, the current weather data. And we should have an example call here. So here we have an example API call. And I'm going to grab this example. I'm going to put it here in the browser. I don't know if you could see, yeah, you can see my browser, excellent. Sorry, like I mean where the address goes. And I'm going to grab my secret, see if I can find my secret. And I'm going to make sure to put it over here at the end. And this is pretty much what we're going to be doing from the back end of our Wix website as well. And I'm just going to go ahead and click enter. And you can see here that I got back some weather. Okay, so I got back all this information about a specific latitude and longitude that I supplied for the API. So I want you to go ahead and do that in your browser because there is a certain latency between when you sign up for OpenWeather and when it starts working. It took me like maybe 3 to 5 minutes before the API key started working. So the first time I tried it, it would have like a forbidden error, so maybe 401 or 403, and then after about 3 or 5 minutes of trying, it started working. So while we are all waiting for that to start working, and please let me know in the comments when the API key starts working for you, I do have a few community announcements that I would like to talk to you about. So first thing that I would like to talk to you about is sharing a little story, actually. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, I don't know if maybe this is your first time on the channel or if you've been on the channel for a while, but over the past month, there's been like a slight change to my publishing schedule, and you might have noticed like 2 weeks a while back where I demonetized the channel, so like you could watch all the videos without ads and stuff like that. So basically, in a nutshell, I don't want to go on too long about it, but about a month or so ago, the channel was hit by by a something called invalid traffic, which basically means that YouTube says you did something wrong and we're cutting your revenue by 90%, and they don't really tell you what it is and how you can fix it. Um, and I personally have never done anything malicious like asking bots to like videos and subscribe to the channel or stuff like that. I have enough real people who are actually interested in the content. And yeah, so basically that kind of threw me off kilter a bit. I mean, I don't do this channel for money per se. I really enjoy creating and teaching and the community. But revenue does play into, how much time I can spend on the channel versus other things which actually put food on the table. So I've been kind of brainstorming and reaching out to people for help. Shout out to my cousin-in-law who works at Google. I won't mention his name, but he's, trying to help me appeal as YouTube support wasn't super helpful. But in the meantime, assuming that it's not going to get fixed anytime soon, I do need to think about how to still invest in the channel and make sure that it's, bringing in a certain amount of revenue. So what I've done is I have started memberships, and I opened them yesterday. So you can now become a channel member, and there are 3 different tiers, and there's from like a supporter who gets cool little badges and stuff and can enjoy fast replies to comments on videos. We have patron. Okay, that's the next tier, and you will enjoy videos that are for members only. As part of this, what I've done is, for those of you who don't know, there is a Velo for Beginners course on YouTube that I've created on Udemy that I've created. So what I've done is I have opened that course for channel members of Patron and above, so you can enjoy all of the content of the Velo for Beginners course as a channel member. And also, whenever I create new videos, usually I upload them maybe a few days to a week in advance, so you'll have access to them before everyone else. And the last level is Insider, and that will allow you to attend exclusive live streams. So I will be doing a monthly Q&A live stream for channel members only at the Insider level, which you can come with all your questions about the projects you're working on and get personalized advice about that. So that's something I'm trying to do in order to kind of revive the time that I can invest in the channel. And in the meantime, I'm going to cut down from 2 videos a week to 1 video a week, except for all the things that I just mentioned. So you'll be seeing a few less videos, but you will have access to all these cool things through memberships. A few more quick announcements. By the way, let me know. Let me see if Thank you, Juan. That's actually the next thing that I was about to talk about. But please let me know. I'm curious if people who are watching manage to gain access to the OpenWeather API. And thank you, Chaiwei, for being a student of the Velo for Beginners course. I'm happy you're enjoying it. Um, Let me know if you guys gain access to the API, if you manage to make that API call in your browser, and if you have questions about that. In the meantime, just a few more announcements, exactly 1 minute. So we've done a few cool things inside of the Wix Wiz team. So the services that we offer, except for YouTube, we also offer our services. So we just released these new plans. We've had plans for a while, but what we've done is consolidated them, simplified them, given access to different billing cycles that can offer you discounts on the plans, and simplified it into a credit system. So please do take a look if you're looking for assistance with your website and you're interested in hiring the team. I definitely recommend checking out the plans. It can be for something long term, but it could also be for something short term. Some people subscribe to a plan for like 1 month, 2 months until a feature is complete, and then they leave the plans, which is totally cool. And some people discover that they love having us on board and they have more things they want to do on their site and they stay on for longer. So please do check that out. One last cool thing with regard to the Wix Wiz team. So we're also starting an affiliate program, and this is for people who might have their own web development agency or web design agency, or just work with people managing several websites and mostly focus maybe on the design aspect, don't have so much time for some of the more complex coding and custom stuff, and they want to refer business to the Wix Wiz team. So you can earn commission on that. And we're just piloting it now, so we're being quite selective and careful with how we do this to make sure we're doing it right. But please head over and fill out the form if you're interested. I'll send these two links in the chat as well, just for people who want to check that out. So let me go ahead and put that right over there. And this is for the affiliate program. Oops, if I could find my mouse. Awesome. So we're done with the announcements. Thank you all for listening. And I hope by now that you have managed to make this call in your browser to the API. If not, then let me know in the comments, but I'm going to continue assuming that you have. So what we're going to do is we're going to start to build out the back end of our application. And we're going to do that right over here. So I'm going to go to public and backend. And I'm going to go in and add a web module. And this is the new version of the .jsw. For those of you who saw the video a while back, Wix is kind of changing it up. If you prefer JSW, you can also use JSW. I don't think it's going away anytime soon. And I'll just call this weather. Let's call this open weather, just so I know what API it's interacting with. And here we have the code. So let me get rid of all this because we don't need it. And we're going to build a first web method that is going to interact. And let's say this is the web method that's going to get the current weather. So I'm going to call this get. Let me zoom in so you can see. Can everybody see the code? I hope. Get current weather. And we'll say the permissions are anyone. Okay, because anyone can call this this web method. And we're going to take in a parameter, but I haven't decided what that parameter is quite yet, so I'm going to get rid of the parameters. And here is essentially where we're going to be writing all that code to call the API. Okay? And in order to call the API, we're going to need to do a few things. So first, well, I'll leave this one on top. Let's get fetch. So I'm going to import fetch, fetch from Wix fetch. And I'm also going to import get secret. That's what's going to help us get the secret that we put in the secret manager before. So we're going to get secret from Wix secrets backend. Okay, and then here we're actually going to call the API. So first, let's go ahead and get our endpoint. So let's say API endpoint. And that equals to, and I'm starting off here with a template literal because as you saw, when we made this call over here, so there are certain things that we add as query params to this URL in order to make the API call. And so for example, here's the latitude and longitude. And I forgot that I was zoomed in for a second. And we also have like the API key. So that's why I'm using a template literal. And so just template literal, these are backticks. I know a lot of people, sometimes when they're watching the videos, they get confused between backticks and single quotation marks. So just note that it's a backtick. Okay, so here we're going to have the endpoint, and I'm going to go and grab that from the API. So here we have instructions how to make the API call. Let me share this link just so that you can follow along here. Okay. So here, I hope the zoom in isn't driving you crazy. So here we have the API call. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab this, and it takes essentially latitude, longitude, app ID is required, and we have a bunch of other things here that we can give in, but usually I start with whatever's required, and then and then if I want to make things fancy, then I take a look at what else we can put in. Okay, so I'm going to grab this endpoint, and I'm going to go back into the editor, and I'm going to paste it right over here. And in order to make these dynamic inside the template literal, I'm going to go ahead and add in the dollar signs before the squiggly brackets over here. And what we're going to do now is, so first we're going to need our API key. So let's make this like an actual variable, API key, not K, but key. And let's get our API key. So I'm going to say const API key equals 2. And this is going to be asynchronous. Anyways, this whole function would have been asynchronous because we have fetch. So I'm just going to put the async keyword right over here. And I know everybody's being kind of quiet, so it's either because you totally understand or you're totally or you totally lost me already. So it's probably one of the two. I hope it's the understanding one. So yeah, so I put in async over here, and I'm not sure what one. I'm not sure what that yes is. If it's yes, I understand, or yes, I'm confused. But following Genius Pro, awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, so here we're gonna have await get secret, and we're gonna need to get our secret. So I'm gonna go over here back to the secrets manager, and I'm just gonna grab here the name. Okay, so Control C. And I'm going to head back into the editor, and I'm going to paste that right over there. Ooh. Okay, so that's going to get our secret from the secrets manager and put it right over here. The next thing we're going to need is lat and lon, or latitude and longitude. That is something that we're going to get from the front end. There is actually another approach where we could have maybe like built this all within a Wix router and then gotten the latitude and longitude that way, but for now, let's do it this way. And since we don't have the front end built out yet, and I just want to hard code latitude and longitude so that we have something that's working and then we can figure it out later on. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say const lon and const lan. And we can just use whatever they had here inside of the documentation. So we had an example here. Here, I don't know. So here they had a random, just grab any random one, just so that it works. And I'm going to put this, I think it should be a string. Anyways, we're putting it here in the URL. So yeah, it could just be a string. Whoops. Sorry, I keep on forgetting that I'm zoomed in because I'm looking at 1,000 things at the same time. Okay, so just to recap in case you lost me there with all the going back and forth between tabs. So I just grabbed like, oh, sorry, not lan, but lat. Okay, so I just grabbed random latitude, longitude. I probably could have just made this up. But yeah, so I just grabbed a random one to do the initial testing of the API call, but eventually we're going to get rid of this and we're going to pass it in as parameters. Okay, that's going to be like a next stage. Okay, so we have an API endpoint, we have latitude, longitude, and I think that we're done. If this was like a more complex API call, then we might also have like options, for example, and we'd have maybe a body. If this was a post request, we'd define a method. If it was a post request. Okay, so just kind of a side note, so you have some general knowledge beyond what we're doing here. But since this is just a GET request, and you can see that over here, it should say somewhere in the documentation. Mm, typically it would say it like somewhere over here. It could be that because all of the requests in this API, like in OpenWeather, are GET, it might say it in like some more general, um, a more general place, like all our requests are GET requests or something like that. But anyways, it's a GET, and that's why we could get it from the browser before. So with GET requests, it's super simple. All we need to do is actually run the fetch. So let's do that right over here. I'm going to say const response equals await fetch. And here we're going to pass in our API endpoint. And then we're going to get back a response. So let me log that response just so we can see what it looks like. And once we get back the response, we're also going to get back the data in JSON format, and we want to kind of extract that and turn it into an object. And the way to do that is by saying const data equals to await response.json. Okay? And obviously you can call your variables whatever you want. It doesn't have to be response and data. This is just kind of what I'm used to, so that's what I'm doing. You can't see my screen. Can you see? Are we good now? Can everybody see my screen? I hope so. Oh, it was zoomed in. Okay, yeah, I'm sorry about the zoom ins. It's hard to keep track of when I'm zoomed in. Let me try moving something around that will help me kind of remember. Okay. Yeah, if I'm ever zoomed in like that, but again, just like scream at me, and I'll eventually I'll notice. Okay, um, so back to where we were. So we got the data, and I'm going to return the data. So essentially, now we have a web method which calls this OpenWeather endpoint, and it'll return the data about the current weather for the latitude and longitude provided. Again, not yet in the parameters, but just the ones that we hard-coded. So let's go ahead and test that. And luckily we have this little blue button here on the side for functional testing. That means we can test it in the back end. We don't need to build out the front end. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click run right over here. And okay, so here we see a few things. So here we see returned with. Okay, that's what garbage and recycling. So now that's what yeah, so that is what the sorry, that completely destroyed my train of thought. This is what the function was returned with. So this is all that data, okay, all the weather data, and there's a lot going on here. So we have weather, we have description of the weather, we have time, we have a lot of information. We don't necessarily need all of it. We'll decide and kind of cherry pick what we want later on for our app. But essentially we got back weather, and we can use this now inside of our application. And here, this is under it is the console log. Okay, so this is the log that I put in. So here you can see that a response to the API call comes back with a lot of like metadata about the response. So we have status 200, which is always good. 200 is good. Status text okay. Okay is good. headers and etc. body, but here like the body is like all confused, and we want the body in JSON format, which is why we use .json. Okay, so we managed to do that, and now let's see how we can actually use this on our front end. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm going to grab this, the name of my function, and I'm going to go to the home, and I'm going to do this as like a kind of one-page app. I'm kind of zoomed in a little bit, zoomed out here inside of my desktop version. And so I'm going to open up the code here for the home page, and I'm going to import this function. I'm going to import this function from the backend. So backend slash OpenWeather dot, I think I put a dash in here, OpenWeather dot web. Okay, if you used the JSW, then that would be .jsw. Okay, so we have the get current weather, and now we're going to want to display it on the screen in some way. So let's think about designing the app. So let's call this Wix weather. Um, and I'm going to start off with like just putting stuff on the canvas. And then we can think about how we want to make it look nice. It's also recommended to like look for some kind of inspiration. So like maybe another weather app that we want to try and mimic in some way. So maybe we can hop on Pinterest after that and like look for something that looks nice. For now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab a text element, and let's have this. Well, I think this is probably a H1 I just added in. Heading 2, that's fine. Okay, so this will be the weather. And I'm just going to put this right over here, make it big, and open this up over here. And I'll rename this weather right over here inside the ID, inside the code panel. Ooh, wow. Okay, I see some questions. Genius Pro, for permissions, do you have to use the new web method, or can it be like you explained in your 5.0 video, calling the user old school? Okay, so regarding permissions, in web.js, the permissions are defined inside of the web method. Okay, so here permissions.anyone, and we have a choice between permissions.anyone, admin, or site member. Inside of the .jsw files, so we would define that over here. Okay, so you see edit web module permissions, and here there's just an example function. So it's pretty much the same in terms of access. It's just where you do it. So the .jsw, you do it over here, and in the new web methods, you do it actually within the web method. Typically, since these, me personally, not typically me personally, since these permissions are not very nuanced, so anyone versus site member versus, oh shoot, am I zoomed in or zoomed out? Okay. I hope you can see everything. Typically, because these aren't very nuanced, so the difference between anyone, site member, and admin is like very broad. I usually end up defining everything as just anyone and really controlling access by myself. So for example, if here inside of this web method, I wanted only, specific members to access or only members to access, then I would like get the current member and see if they have a specific role or something like that, or run a query and really create more nuanced access. If it's really for anyone, then you can, if it's really like for all members, let's say, then you can use the permissions.members, and that would work. Okay, so thank you, Genius Pro. Okay, Juan also had something to say. Oh, I have to go. Contact me later about a plan. Please do. We'd love to help you with your site. Okay, so back to where we were. I hope that didn't distract everyone. So just to recap, so we imported the web method to our page code, and we also added an element that we called weather. And basically what I'm going to do now is just kind of proof of concept that everything's working by displaying the weather here inside of this element. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of all this stuff here. And I'm going to create a function here. I really like to keep the onReady very clean. Okay, so instead of writing all of my code kind of inside of the onReady, I like to build functions outside of the onReady and call them inside the onReady just to keep everything super clean. Just because, like, for example, you have these like closing like parentheses. So if you write everything in the onReady, then that gets pushed all the way down to the end of your code, and like it's hard to remember where's what and what the order is and everything. Okay, so let's create a function, and this is going to be an asynchronous function, and it's going to be called populate current weather. And what we're going to do is we're going to call the get current weather function. So we'll say const current weather, and that will be equal to await get current weather. And then once we have the current weather, then we can say that weather dot text equals to, and now I have to remember. So this is why it's good that I that I called it in the browser, because I have kind of this nice layout of what the data looks like. So we have weather. Okay, so main. So what I'm looking for is here is main and temperature. Well, 289, 289.1. I'm guessing that the weather is given in some is given in some interesting format that we need to maybe convert into another data type, like into like it's not Celsius or Fahrenheit, it's like something else completely. Um, let's actually look into that. Well, let's finish with our proof of concept and then we'll look into that. So this is the temperature. So it's .main.temp. And then let's go over here. That's always the fun thing when you're using an external API. You're always going to get surprised and yeah, need to adapt to different situations. So here we're going to have current weather dot ooh, dot main dot temp. And then here I'll just call this populate current weather function. And that probably should do the trick. So let's go ahead. And generally, I like to test the site live. For this specifically, we could do preview mode and it would be the same. So let's just check that out. Nothing's happening. So let's see why not. So let me add a log here for current weather. Console.log current weather. And let's see. Well, this reminds me actually that we didn't really do any kind of error handling in the backend, which is also recommended. But yeah, so I added in this log, and let's go back into preview mode and see what's actually coming back. Okay, so we do have current weather, we do have main, and we do have temp. So why isn't it working? Edit site, current weather, dot main, dot temp. Now let me log that. So let me go ahead. I'll change my log to this. Let's see what happens. If you know what the problem is, I think the weather is in Kelvin. I think you might be right, Genius Pro. Okay, current weather. Ah, I think I have an idea. So it could be that this temp is coming back as a number. So let me go ahead and show you that. So yeah, so let me go ahead here. This could actually be a great learning opportunity. So if we go into current weather and I go into weather and main temp, so you see this is a number. Okay, and I was trying to assign it to text element, so that's not going to work. It has to be a string. And one thing I want to check is, because I don't have any errors here inside of the developer console in Wix, but I have a feeling that if I publish the site, and if I go to view site, and then I go and inspect here, ta-da! You see this error over here? So it says Wix code SDK error, the text parameter that is passed to the text method cannot be set to the value, it must be type string. Okay, so this is one of the many reasons that I prefer testing on the live site, just because you get more information. I would have caught this 3 minutes earlier and would have saved us a lot of time, but we would have lost out on this learning opportunity. So, okay, so basically that was the issue. So let's head back to the site, to the editor, sorry, and we'll just need to change this to .toString. And then if we go into preview mode, I know I'm going back into preview mode, then it should all work now. Let's see. One second. Let me try publishing. Let's see. See, this is the fun of being live. There we go. It worked. Hey, it worked. So I don't know why it wasn't working in preview mode. Maybe it's just like some kind of caching issue, but here we go. Okay, so here we got the temperature in what Genius Pro suggested is maybe Kelvin. I want to see if we can find some kind of official reference to that. Let's see, guide. Uh, let's see. Paid plan, da, 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 da. Reading documentation is a big part of using third-party APIs and development in general, to be honest. Uh, let's see. Maybe they have a response. Okay, here, API response. Let's see if they have any notes. So weather, main, temperature, unit default, Kelvin. Now, guess what the next thing we need to do is? How to convert between Kelvin and Celsius and Fahrenheit. And this actually is an interesting opportunity for us to introduce a feature to our app. So let's say we wanted to have a feature where we could switch between Fahrenheit and Celsius, let's say, or maybe Kelvin. Maybe some people want to see it in Kelvin. Yeah, so this is actually a cool thing that we can do. So let's implement it. I'm very much going with the flow with this app. So let's do that. I think that's a cool idea. So we'll need to get some um, algorithms here. So what we could do is we could use Google. So let's do, or you could also use like ChatGPT or something like that. Let's try, okay, Kelvin to Celsius. Let's say algorithm. Why did it just move everything to the middle? Okay. Oh my gosh. C equals K minus 2. Okay, let me copy that. Okay, fun, fun, fun. So let's have two functions here. Let's say convert, so function, convert Kelvin to Celsius. Celsius. Oh my gosh, my spelling is Celsius. Okay. And here we'll have the temperature. We'll just write temp, even though I usually don't like writing shortened versions of parameters and stuff. And what we'll do is we'll have that function that we had here. So return temp minus 273.15. Okay, and let's have another one. Let's have another one that says function convert Kelvin to, let me search for that in Google first. Oh no. To Fahrenheit formula. A little more complicated. A little more complicated. Let me grab that. And oh shoot, I've been zoomed in again. I'm so sorry. I was copying a formula to write over here, and I'm copying the word Fahrenheit as well. And this will also be with temp. And we're going to return 9 divided by 5. This will be 5 times plus 32. Okay. So should our default be Celsius or Fahrenheit? That's a good question. Uh, I'm currently in New York, so I'm going to do default Fahrenheit. You can do default whatever you like, but we're going to be giving people the option to switch. So let's think about how we'll do this. So I'm going to add in 2 buttons. Let's go and add in a button. And again, functionality before design. So I'm going to call this, well, we could just do, let's say, C. And I'm going to add in another button, and that's going to be F. And one of these is going to be disabled by default, and the one that's disabled is actually the one that we're going to be on by default. So I said that we're going to be Fahrenheit by default for my application. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to disable this by clicking here on the unchecking the enabled checkbox. And I'm going to also rename this. So let's do Celsius button. And I'm going to rename the other one to Fahrenheit. Oh no, shoot. That was the Fahrenheit button. Let me copy here, Fahrenheit. Raise your hand if you could spell Fahrenheit. And I'm going to paste that right over here. I mean, that's not even English. That must be like German or something. Fahrenheit button, and this is going to be Celsius button. Okay, Celsius button. Okay, so I've defined 2 buttons. And now what I'm going to do is we're going to have some fun here with global variables. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to define some global variables up here up top. And the first one I'm going to define is going to be current weather. So let current weather. And the other one I'm going to define is let mode. And mode will determine if we're in Fahrenheit mode or Celsius mode. Let me just make a small comment for myself that this will be either Celsius or Fahrenheit. Or Fahrenheit. This is slightly embarrassing, but gotta do what you gotta do. Okay, so we have current weather and we have mode. And what I'm going to do is that when we get back the current weather here inside of the populate current weather function, I'm going to, instead of having it only here in the local scope, I'm actually going to assign it to the global variable that we defined up here. And you can see that once I assign it a value, then it turns kind of darker blue. That means I'm accessing it somewhere else in the code, as opposed to mode, which we haven't defined yet. So that's not really, that's kind of grayed out. David asked a question. Are you adding a winter picture over a certain temperature? Yeah, so we're going to talk, we'll talk in a moment about, how to add different pictures, and also the Open Weather Map API comes with icons that we can actually call via the API, which is really cool and convenient instead of like playing around with your own pictures. So I'll get to that as soon as as soon as I backtrack from this feature that kind of appeared out of nowhere, that I'm getting a bit excited about. Okay, so we're storing current weather as a global variable. And now what we're going to do, I don't need this log anymore. Don't be afraid to delete your logs. That's one important thing that I've learned. If you're done with it, get rid of it. Okay, so current weather, and now we're going to want to define mode. So my mode by default, as I said, I'm going to do default Celsius, right? And what we'll do here is we'll say, I'll have another function here, get temp based on mode. And we're going to pass in the temp in Kelvin. And what we'll do here is we'll say if mode equals to, I think I copied Celsius, yeah, Celsius, then what we'll do is we'll return the convert Kelvin to Celsius, and we'll pass in the temp here. And else, what we can do is we can return the convert Kelvin to Fahrenheit. Awesome. And I mean, this can be shortened, like you can just use like yeah, I mean, this is fine. We'll leave it like that. I won't overcomplicate things. So we're going to get the temp now. So this we're going to have to call over here. So, oh, and we should also, should we return it already as a string or not? No, we're not going to return it as a string. Not for now, at least. Okay, so that's what we'll do here. So we'll say get, oh shoot, I didn't want to erase that. We're going to say here, get temp based on mode. And then we're going to convert it to a string. Let's see if that works. So I'm going to go ahead and publish that. And let's check out the live site. Okay. It worked to some extent. Yeah, I don't want so many dots afterwards. The question is if we want any dots at all, any digits after the decimal point. Sorry, I'm using like very vague terminology. So what we could do is either not have any or have maybe two. Let's have two. You could decide what you want to do for your app. I'll do 2, so that will be here, instead of .toString, I'm going to do here .toFixed and put in 2. Yeah, so math.round would be good if we wanted to round it down and like have nothing after the decimal point. Or maybe, I think with math.round, you might also be able to put something in for decimal. The thing is that math.round is going to return a number. Whereas anyways, I want to convert this to a string, so I can just use .toFixed, and that will convert it to a string with 2 numbers after the decimal point. And that's kind of esoteric. I don't take any pride in like remembering these things by heart, actually. I just happen to have used it quite extensively, like when dealing with like Stripe APIs and stuff like that. So I happen to know that one by heart, but easily this would have been something that I would have looked up, not or asked ChatGPT. So I added .toFixed, and let me just make sure that that actually worked. Okay, great. So we got that working. And now we just want to get our buttons working, right? So I want to be able to convert between, you know, uh, Celsius and Fahrenheit. How come there's an error for, I have a question from Alan Chen. I'm not sure which error 429 you're talking about. If you're talking about something that you saw here inside of the console, generally you can ignore it. I mean, Wix has lots of, like, let's say, oh, this one you're talking about. Okay, there, I see it. It's at the end. Yeah, it's, I just ignore it. It's not something that you have any control over, just so people can see what we're talking about here. Um, yeah, I mean, even if you created, excuse me, like a completely blank Wix website and published it and loaded it, you'd have that. So it's something that Wix either needs to deal with or doesn't need to deal with, but there's nothing you can do about it. So even if it is hurting performance, you're kind of stuck with it. Yeah, sometimes it can get hard to know what is an error in your code and what is an error with Wix, but after you're working with it a while, you get used to some of these and like okay, this one is a Wix one, this one is actually a problem in my code. But that's a good question. Okay, so we want to do our buttons now, so we want to be able to switch between 2 modes with our buttons. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to create a new function, and let's call this switch mode. And switch mode, and I'll put in here mode. No, new mode. Okay, so this is the mode that we want to switch to, essentially. And what's going to happen here is that once we do that, we're going to say, once we switch mode. Okay, so let me take a step back, and let's talk about what happens. Sometimes, like if I abstract it too much, then it's hard for me to think about how to do it. So let me take a step back and talk about like, okay, what's going to happen once I click a button, write some code, maybe refactor it. So I'm going to create another function, and I'll call this bind event listeners. And this is just a general function that I'm going to use to bind event listeners to the buttons. And I'm going to call it here inside of the onReady function at the end. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to select, let's say, my... oh, wait, I actually said... I realized I had said to him I want my default to be Fahrenheit, and I actually said it as Celsius. Anyway, yeah, so I'm going to select the Fahrenheit button, And then when we click on the Fahrenheit button, what do we want to happen? So when we click on the Fahrenheit button, we want to do a few things. So we want to do some visual stuff. So for example, we're going to do Celsius button dot enable, and we'll do Fahrenheit button dot disable. And we're also going to want to, what else are we going to want to do? We're going to want to change this weather text to, so we could actually call, so we could call populate current weather again. I could just call populate current weather again. And what this would do is it'll get the weather again from the server. So that's a question if that's something that we want to do or not. Because technically we're just kind of changing a view, so we shouldn't really have to need to we shouldn't really need to refetch if we don't want to, because that could just cause excessive calls to the API, and we don't need it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate out some of the functions here. So populate current weather will just be this. And here we'll have another asynchronous function, which will be, let's say, fetch current weather. And that will just do this. And then what we can do is we can just call here fetch current weather. Before we call populate current weather, I'm just going to make this the whole onReady asynchronous here. And this will be await. So we fetch the current weather, and then we populate the current weather. And that way, when we call this populate current weather function over here, we're not actually refetching the current weather every time. We're just using this get temp based on mode, which if we change the mode, then that will change the mode. That will be based on the new mode. Okay, so switch mode, new mode. So we could just say here. So I don't know if we need this whole function here just for switching the mode. We can just, I think we can get rid of that. And here we can just say, let's say mode equals to Fahrenheit. So this is basically what we want to do. Let me check and make sure that this is working. Am I zoomed in? I am zoomed in. Okay, publish that. I hope we're connected. I got a message here, chat disconnected. But I do see a message from David afterwards, so I don't know. I hope you can all still hear me, see me. Okay, so we published. Let's head to the live site. And I'm refreshing here. Might have been an internet slowdown or something. Okay, let me see here. So, oh shoot. I'm all over the place. I'm all over the place. Let me set my default. I'm going to change my default to Fahrenheit because that's what I said I was going to do. And the buttons were set according to that. Okay, publish. And give a refresh here. Oh, control shift. There we go. I was pressing Alt instead of Control. Da, da, da. Okay. So now we're here in Fahrenheit, and I'm going to click C. Oh, but did I program? Oh man, I am really all over the place. I'm all over the place. Sorry, 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 sorry. Uh, Let me change this back to Celsius. I hope you guys are realizing what kind of stuff I'm doing here. That's okay. Change this around. This one will be enabled. This one will be disabled. Yeah, it's not always as fancy as you see in the edited tutorial. Okay, Control R. And feel free to run ahead. Like if you already figured everything out and you want to go ahead and code your app and like not listen to me, that's totally fine. Okay, so I'm gonna click F here, and there we go. Okay, so that worked. I don't know if you guys managed to see. Let me just show you again. Um, so 30, and now I click the F up here and it switches. Okay, so it worked quite well. And now we want to implement it so it could be both ways. So, so what I could do is I could just copy this pretty much um, and just do the same thing for Celsius button. But I can also do something. I can also do something more fun, which would like kind of make the code more dry, and that is to just um, base it on the naming. But how would I get that Celsius in there? Um, let's see how we'd make this more dry. So I can declare here const modes, and then here we'd have Celsius, and we'd have Fahrenheit. And I'm doing this more like just to demonstration purposes, because I often use this technique, especially if there are a lot of buttons that I'm doing this for. And then here what I do is modes dot for each, and have mode, and then put this code inside of there. And now, so let's say for example, instead of Fahrenheit here, I would actually write mode in a template literal. And now it'll apply it to both, and then wherever it says Fahrenheit here, so let's see. I'm going to change this actually, because here we have mode and mode twice. That would have been a disaster. Um, so for each um, button mode, let's call it. Like some people might be inclined to just write, let's say M, but I really, really try and avoid just writing like one letter as a variable. I really don't like doing that. So this would also be button mode, and this would also be button mode. And naming you can always change later on, it's like you're not married to it. Like often I'll change once it becomes clear what's happening in the code. For the Celsius button, now here we have something fun that we need to do, because it's not the mode that's from the for each, but it's the other mode. So what we'd have to do here is, what we could say is, let's say button mode equals, no, let's say Celsius question mark, then it will be Fahrenheit. Let me grab my Fahrenheit from up there. And otherwise it'll be Celsius. So basically it'll be the opposite of whatever the button mode is. There might be a more elegant way to do that, but for now, and I'm just going to move all this disabling and enabling under the primary functionality. And the reason I do that is because, I mean, now there's not really anything that can throw an error, but if there is some kind of error with the functionality of this button, I wouldn't want to change the UI. So I want the UI to stay as is, so it's like clear that there was something that went wrong. Okay, so this is, oh, I wasn't zoomed in this whole time. So this is where we're at. for those of you who missed it. And I'm going to go ahead and publish that. And I'm going to go ahead and refresh. And let's try. So Fahrenheit, Celsius. It didn't work. Let me just make sure 100% that it was published. Sometimes like the publish takes the time. So when something doesn't work that I expect it to, I just double check that I actually published the most recent version of the site. So let's say, yeah. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so we created these really cool buttons that help us switch between Celsius and Fahrenheit, and that's something we're going to be able to apply now throughout our entire application. So we're going to have, like anywhere we have temperatures, we'll be able to apply this logic now. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so we have the weather, and what we will want to do is we'll want to be able to display the weather based on the person's current location. Okay, that's the next big thing that we're going to want to be doing. So in order to do that, we're going to have to get the user's location, and there is a Velo API that's going to help us with that. So we're going to do Velo get location. I don't remember what the API is called exactly. Get current geolocation. Yeah, so this is part of Wix Window Frontend, and as you can see here, it's going to give us the latitude and longitude, which is what we need essentially. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to import Wix Window Frontend. And then what we're going to do here is inside of the fetch current weather, I'm going to say const location equals to, is it a promise? Let me see if it's a promise. Yeah, it's a promise. Okay. And this is going to be await Wix window frontend dot get current geolocation. And then I'm going to say here const latitude and longitude equals to location dot chords. Okay, and then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pass in the coordinates, and I have two options here, so I could pass it in as two parameters. Usually I like to try and, well, it's generally recommended to try and minimize the amount of parameters that you pass into a function. So instead of passing it in as two parameters, I'm going to pass in as one parameter. So I'm going to have here latitude and longitude. And this is one parameter. I wrapped it here in an object. Okay, so I'm passing this in as an object to the getCurrentWeather function. And now we're ready to finally adjust the function in the backend. So I'm going to go back here to our backend. And here now we're ready to take parameters here. So here I'm going to say that this is the coordinates. And then I'm going to say over here that const latitude longitude equals to coordinates. And then here we can actually just pass in this latitude right over here and this longitude right over here and get rid of this and go ahead and publish. And I'm going to refresh here and see if I get the weather here. Let's see. Okay, so I got this warning that the site wants to know my location. Okay, because, I mean, you probably have seen something like this before, and I'm going to allow it. And there we go, 16.60. So this is a slight problem with the two fixed approach. So maybe who had suggested it before? Somebody suggested math.round. Oh, Chile, yeah. So maybe that's a good argument for the approach that you wanted to take with the math.round, that that would not have given the extra zero there at the end. So maybe we'll change that in later on. But yeah, so that is my local weather here. Let's check. Yeah, 62. Oh, that's not so bad. 62 is 16? Does that sound right? Well, I feel like the Fahrenheit's a little high for the Celsius. Like 16 Celsius sounds like a little low to me, as opposed to 16 Fahrenheit, which sounds a little like a little bit warm. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, so we got it working for current location, but the problem is that we're not indicating in the application what the location is. So we want to like tell the user like, okay, it's 62.15 in your location, like in New York or whatever. Um, so in order to do that, we're going to need to use another API, because as you can see here, in terms of the data that we get from Wix when we use the geolocation, so we get latitude and longitude, we get a lot of other information, speed, but we don't actually know to tell the user what city they're in, let's say. Luckily, OpenWeather does have an API for that. So here, the geocoding API. Okay, so let me open that in a new tab. Simple tool that they developed, la la la. And so, okay, so here it says that we need to give a city name, but I think that there's also, no, I'm sure that they had also a reverse one. I'm pretty sure. Oh no. Okay, coordinates by zip postcode. Let me see. Reverse geocoding. Okay. I was starting to get a little worried there. I was pretty sure that I remember they had it. Okay, reverse geocoding, that's what we want. So basically, we want to provide the latitude and longitude and get back the the city, which they will return over here. So name, city, blend. Okay, awesome. So we're going to need to use this API endpoint. And we're going to go back here. And we're back in our backend. So let me just paste this new endpoint here so I don't forget. And so unfortunately with the web methods, maybe this is something that will be fixed, or maybe it is fixed and I just haven't checked recently, but we can't essentially like build functions outside of the web method to be called in the web method, which would have helped us a lot here, because this API call that we're making is actually very similar to the one that we want to make now to the reverse geoencoding. Like the only thing that's different pretty much is the endpoint. We're also doing latitude, longitude. We're calling it, we're getting back data. Same, pretty much the same exact thing. Just that the data that's going to come back is going to be the city data, not the weather data. But so what I'm going to do is not the ideal situation, but I'm just going to actually copy paste this web method. And let's say get, so we're going to say here, let's say get city info. And we'll just replace this. So basically the only thing, oh no, it's data. Okay. I thought I would just replace like one thing here, but I don't think that's the case. So I'm going to actually just grab that. And I'm going to paste it here in the endpoint. And we just need to do all of our nice little adjustments here. Oh, limit. What's limit? What is limit and do I need it? Let's see. Limit, optional, number of location names in the API response. Okay, I'm not going to add the limit. I doubt that we'll get a lot. And get rid of limit. As I said, I always first like to try without anything optional and then add options in later on. So here we have the API key, and we have longitude, and we have latitude. Awesome. So we have this new lovely endpoint now. Typically, I would want to test it out, but I think it'll be just as quick to just test it on the front end because we have everything built out already. So I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to go here to our front end page. I'm going to import it up here along with get current weather. And let's build another function here. So let's say async function fetch city. And oh, I need to add in some kind of something to display the city. So let me add in some text. And I'll change this. Let's make this like a heading 3, let's say. And this will be the city. So I'll add this under here, city. And I'll open this up, change this to city. And just so you can see what I'm doing here. And now we're here back in fetch city. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say const city data equals to await get city info. See, so already like I don't like when this happens. Like I said, this is city data and it's get city info, right? So instead I'll write here like get city info, or I'll change it to data. Like I try and keep the language as consistent as possible. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to assign that to, so city.text equals to, and we can just do city info. I think it was dot, but it might have been an array. Let me see. It might be an array. Let's check that out. Response, yes, it's an array. So we want city info, and I'm just going to pick the first city that comes out. I'm going to assume that that is the correct one. Even though here they have City of London and London, which London seems more, I don't know, that's probably what I would want. But anyway, let's go back here. So it's going to be city info 0.name. And we'll run that right over here. So await fetch city. Okay, let's try publishing that and see if that works for us. I want to drink some water. Oh, unable to handle the request, contact the site administrator or view the site monitoring logs. Okay, so this is actually another good learning opportunity. So I'm going to go here to where we're managing our secrets, and nearby you can see here we have the logs. And I'm just going to go here and click view site logs, and I'm going to reload this page. Let's see what the error is. Oh, duh. Um, Genius Pro, I will address your question in 1 second. But just, okay, so what did I do wrong here? I didn't pass in the coordinates. So obviously it did not know how to get the location. This happens to me actually quite often, forgetting to pass in the parameters. Okay, so what we want to do here is actually just use this again. Okay, so get current geolocation, and we're going to pass in, we're going to get the latitude and longitude. And since whenever I'm copying and pasting code like this, it's an indication that we're probably going to create a function for that. Should I not be lazy and just do that? No, I'm going to be lazy for now. Okay, I just want to get this running. So I'm going to go ahead and paste that in there. And that should remedy the situation. So, again, refresh. Latitude of coordinates. No, I don't believe you. Let me see. Mm, no, no. Let me try refreshing one more time. Yay. Okay, so it says New York County. I'm not so happy about that. It is generally true. And if we play around with the geoencoding API, it probably is possible to somehow get it to be a little more specific or get the actual location that you want. Um, but that's good enough for me. I mean, it's not like Zimbabwe. It's like New York. So it's definitely getting the right data and displaying the right stuff. Okay, so we have a bunch of key features in here. I'm going to take a look at what Genius Pro asked. I keep getting this error. Type error is not a function. Okay, awesome. So yes, that error is usually because basically the import that you have here is not matching the web that it could be two things essentially. Either it doesn't match the exact name that you have inside of the backend file, or you forgot the export keyword. Okay, so all of the web methods or functions that you want to call in the front end need to be exported. So if you don't export, then you'll get that error because it can't really find that function name because it's not exported from the file. So check the names and check the exports, and that should resolve your issue. Okay. So what did we do so far? Let's do a little recap because we did a lot. I mean, the app still doesn't look great, but it's doing a lot of stuff. So we're getting our weather, we're getting our city, and we can switch between Celsius and Fahrenheit. Next, I'm going to leave it up to you. So we can do one of two things, at least first. One is we can implement a search feature. So to allow people to search for a location and based on that location get the weather. Option one. Option two is we can implement uh, we can sorry, I lost my train of thought because I thought of another thing we can implement now. We can implement the icons. So implement like displaying an icon for the weather. Third thing we can do is to display the weather forecast. So like seeing the weather a few days forward. Those are the three options. I hope to do them all, but I'm letting you vote on what you want to do next. So what is your preference to start with? Do you want to do searching for a location, implementing icons, or implementing the weather forecast? I'll give you. Okay, David said forecast and icon. If there are no other votes, then I'll go with that. I'll give another 10 seconds for voting. And I see a question coming in. Does everybody agree with David that we're doing forecast and icons? Let's see. Okay. I don't see any other votes, so I'm going to go with forecast. Okay. So let's talk about how we're going to do the forecast. And it shouldn't be too hard because we did a lot already. So let's go ahead and okay, this is the current weather data. Go back here. API. So let's see, 16-day forecast. Um, okay, so I see we have a question here from Aksh, and it's a little outside the scope of the project that we're doing now. Um, yeah, so, and it's React Next.js, which is not Wix. So I'd be happy to chat, but I don't think that this is the forum which I can help you with, that I can help you right now. So I'm going to go ahead and continue. And if you have a question like more related to the project that we're working on, I'd be more than happy um, to assist. Okay, so we're talking about the forecast. So there's different options here that we have for forecast. So we have hourly forecast for 4 days. So we can get like 4 days forward and get a few hours, like hour by hour. Thank you very much. Hour by hour, and um, or we could do 16 days, like a general. I'm going to do the 4 days hour per hour because I think that that will give us more to play with as opposed to 16 days. So let me take a look here. Oh no, shoot, that's not what I wanted. API docs. Okay, so this is what we need. And again, you see there's a recurring theme here, latitude, longitude, and we can make the call pretty much. So let me go ahead and grab this, and we'll go to our backend, and I will paste this, put it over here. I'm going to go ahead and copy this, paste it, and this will be get forecast. And we're just going to need to, I don't want to rewrite the whole thing. So let's see if I could just grab, I'll just grab this part. Everything that comes before lat and just paste it in there. That makes more sense. Okay. And let's test this out. So I'm going to grab the function. It's really easy. I mean, this is why I like this API so much, and I think it's a great API to practice with because it's a really easy API. Like some APIs can really be a huge pain. Like they're vague. It's like complex post requests, complex authentication. Like every single endpoint is different. Like this is so simple. I love it. So I'm going to grab this get forecast and I'm going to go to our homepage, paste it right over there up top with the imports. And let's create a new function here. I'm trying to like keep the function in some kind of logical order. Once the file gets like really big, you might want to consider like putting some of these in like another external file so you can create like public files and store stuff there, especially for like a one-page app like this where essentially all the code's going to be on one page. That's probably what I would do at a later point in the project. But let's build this out over here now. So we're going to go async function get get fetch. That's kind of the language I've been using. Fetch forecast. And what we're going to do, okay, since we're doing again with the geolocation, I'm going to stop being lazy and I'm finally going to create that function. So let's create that function over here. I'll say async function get coordinates. And essentially what this function is going to do, it's going to do this. So I'm going to grab this over here and I'm just going to return this. Okay, so it's just kind of a wrapper function for that. And then here I can just say const coordinates equals to await get coordinates. Yeah, it's better to stop being lazy earlier than later because then it saves you time in the long run. I'm going to copy this over here and go like that, and then change this to coordinates. And I'm going to use the new function that we created over here as well. So grab that over here, get coordinates. Thank you for whoever's giving all the hearts. I really appreciate it. It doesn't tell me who's doing it, but I do appreciate it. Okay, so I got the coordinates, and now I'm going to say const forecast equals to await get forecast, pass in our coordinates, and now we're just going to see what, we don't even know what the data looks like yet, right? So let's see what the data looks like. So console.log forecast and forecast. Oh, what did I just do? What did I just do? Okay, okay, slight backtrack, everyone. I got a little over enthusiastic. So I accidentally built the the get coordinates function inside of the fetch forecast function. So this all actually needs to be over here, and this all actually needs to be over here. Okay. That would have been funny. It would have had like a little bit of a loop there. Okay. So now we're going to call fetch forecast up here. Await fetch forecast. I don't know if you hear the siren. That's New York City for you. Always a siren somewhere. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to publish this. And let's take a look here at the live site. So again, we won't see anything yet because we didn't put the data anywhere, but we should get a console log with the forecast. Don't see it yet. Let's refresh. Still no. Still no. I definitely published. I'm definitely calling fetch forecast. I definitely have a console log there. I think it's just taking time. It might be easier to do this in preview mode. Let's just do this in preview mode. Let's see. There we go. Okay. Invalid API key. Maybe I don't have that one for free. That would be sad. Okay, let's see. Let me just double check here. This might not be included in the free plan, maybe. Let's see. Subscribe. Oh, it does have free. 60 calls per minute. Current weather API. Oh, that's confusing. That's confusing. I assumed that this here I would see the plans for the specific API that I went to, but that's not the case. Okay. So we're going to need to adjust our expectations here because I'm not paying for this API. So what do we have access to with free? We have current weather, which we used. We don't have 4-day hourly forecasts. We do have 3-hour forecast 5 days, which I think is the closest thing to what we were trying to do. So let's use that one instead. So I'm going to go here to 3-hour forecast for 5 days, and I'm going to grab this key part of the endpoint, and I'm going to go back here into our backend. And the reason it might not have been working on the pub, like I didn't do any error handling so far, so that's really bad in this whole application. We can talk about that soon, because like I'm very feature hungry, so I want to implement as much as possible and not deal with important things. And let's go here to the back end. I'm just going to change this out to this one, to the new endpoint. It looks so short and sad. Let's not forget the HTTP. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and publish that. I'll just also do this in preview mode as well. It's still, for this, it was specifically a little quicker. And let's see, I have to open the developer console. Forecast. Okay, so let's see, list. So this is the data that we got back. And let's see how this data is like working. I don't even know. It's just a huge list. Okay. North Beach. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I'm getting a feeling the location information might not be so accurate. But yeah, let me take a look at the docs. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. List. Okay, so time of date of data forecasted. I feel like this is going to be a project. Uh, so we have, that's what we're going to need to take a look at initially to organize this data. Um, time of data forecasted. But I'm also curious why we got so many, because we got a list. Thank you, CWeb 1988. No problem. It'll be public on the channel afterwards if you want to check it out later. But thank you for stopping by. Yes, you can watch it later. Um, so the list has 40, but it said that it was 5-day, 3-hour forecast. Oh, so maybe it's ah, I misinterpreted. I was thinking like for each day we get like the first 3 hours or something like that, but it's I think for 5 days at 3-hour intervals. Okay, so that's where and that would make more sense with having 40. Um, so what the first project that we're going to have is organizing this data, um, because yeah, it's just basically giving us the weather at 3-hour intervals, but we want to like have it organized by days, right? Because nobody just wants to see like all of the weather from now till who knows when in 3-hour intervals. Like, it doesn't make sense. So we're going to have to build out some functions here to work with the date data and to organize the forecast data. So let's see. Let me just take one more look here. And feel free to chime in if you have any other ideas, but that's what I think we need to do. So time of data for, let me see what that looks like here, what the format is. And we also have it in our, okay, so we're gonna have to create a date from that. I have a feeling I'm gonna be using ChatGPT very soon. When it gets to all this stuff with like dates and stuff and like very generic functions, I usually use ChatGPT. Um, okay, so we're gonna need to get, I mean, first let's say we can get the day of the week from this. Yeah, so I think we're gonna have, I think we're gonna organize this data a little bit in the back end before we actually pass it to the front end. And for that, I'm also going to want to have some coordinates ready. I'm going to want to have some coordinates ready for the hard coding. I shouldn't have deleted my hard coded coordinates from before. So what I'll do here is let's do it like this. First, let me get my coordinates here. So I'll do that by going home, and I'll do console.log coordinates. Let's go into preview mode. My voice is starting to run out. I hope it lasts. So we have here coordinates. Let me grab those. I hope I can copy from here. That would be annoying if I can't copy. Oh, there was a button, copy JSON. I should have used that. Yeah, you see there's this copy JSON button here. So that's going to come in handy. So I copied the JSON, went over here, and I'll just do here const coordinates. And I use uppercase whenever it's something that's hard coded. Like it's like a default value that's not going to change. It's called, I think, screaming something screaming case, something like that. So coordinates, and that's what I'll do. Get forecast. So I'm going to change this out temporarily for my hard coded coordinates, just for testing, because we're going to be testing until I get the data right. So here we got the data, and essentially what I want to do is, first thing what I want to do is just see what those dates look like and make sure that that my understanding of what the intervals that we're getting the weather data at was correct. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say const say list equals 2, and let's see. Okay, so yeah, it was just list const list equals data, and then let's say const dates equals 2, and I'm going to map the list. So list.map, and I'm going to map it, and so for each forecast, I don't know what to call each one of those individual forecasts. I guess forecast. For each forecast, I'm going to return the forecast dot, I think it was dt, and I'm going to create a new date from it. So new date, because essentially, oh, I didn't really explain that part, but yeah. So this is the date, but as you can see, it doesn't look anything like a date. It's just a random string of numbers. This is essentially the milliseconds since a specific date and I think it's maybe January 1st, 1970. Okay. Yeah, I know it sounds pretty arbitrary, but that's one of the formats that dates can be displayed in JavaScript. Yeah, so in order to turn that into something that we can understand as human beings, we use the new date, this new date method. And that should essentially give me like an array with lots of comprehensible dates. And I'm just going to return those dates from this function. And I'm going to test this. Let's go ahead and test this. And it's fine that the coordinates here are null because I hard coded them in. So I'm just going to go ahead and run. And okay, so we have an array. And all these are empty. Maybe it's because they're date objects and I need to convert those into let's see. Okay. Okay, we're gonna need to do this something a little more complex here. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna say const date equals to new date forecast dot dt. And then I'm going to say return date dot to locale date string. Let's try that. And dates in JavaScript, no matter how much you do it, it's gonna be it's gonna be a joy. It's gonna be a joy to deal with every time again. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and test this again. Mm-hmm. Okay. By the way, I guess that's the date that I guess that's the date in 1970 that it started at. Let me just make sure that yeah, it's DT. It's definitely DT. Let me just make sure I'm not misinterpreting what the data type is. UTC. Unix UTC. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's see. Uh, okay, change of plans. I'm going to just return forecast.dt. I want to make sure that each one of those is really, like, that I'm not going crazy. So let's just check that out. So I'm going to return. Okay. No, yeah, each one of these is different. Each one of these is different. But actually, it might not be that format that I mentioned because I see here, does this make any, oh, 15. No, that doesn't make sense. That's not a date. Um, hmm, hmm. Okay, I'm almost at the research stage. Let's try taking one more stab at it. Uh, okay, so I know that I'm getting the DTs. I know they're all different. I'm creating a new date from the forecast. To locale date string didn't seem to work. Let's just try to string. Let me see if what happens if I just coerce it into a string. That doesn't work. I'm going to GPT. Oh, no. Okay, I think that yeah, I think that the issue is that is this like Unix UTC, which I'm not 100% sure what that means. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up ChatGPT. Um, I just need to make sure first that I don't have any embarrassing conversations open. uh, yeah, I mean it's mostly just yeah, I think it's fine. It's mostly just development stuff that I have in here. So here's ChatGPT. And yeah, I upgraded to for 1 month just to check it out. To be honest, I wasn't super impressed. Like I'm impressed with ChatGPT in general, but I wasn't super impressed with just like the comparison between the free and the paid. Like, okay, the context window was a little different, but like I didn't feel like the answers were a lot better. So yeah, anyways, I canceled, but you live and you learn. And so I'm using the new 4.0 that was recently announced this week. And what we want to do is I want to convert um, so write a JavaScript function to convert to uh, to let's start with locale date string. Let's see if that works. Ah, okay. So the problem is that it needs to be multiplied by 1,000 apparently, because it was in seconds and not in milliseconds. So I didn't even really need that so much. So let's go back over here, and I'm gonna do this times 1,000. Okay, I just added like times 1,000 here to convert it from seconds to milliseconds. And let's try that again. Excellent. So we have now all the dates uh, in. It's interesting that they don't have. It's all like GMT plus 0. That's fine, I guess. Yeah, so May 16th, 6 p.m. is the next interval, and then 3-hour intervals. So basically, the next thing that I want to do is essentially I want to group all of these dates together by day. So that's either like date or day of the week, because it's I know that we're gonna have 5 days forward, so like date would probably be better. Date is the more scalable approach, I think. So what I'm gonna do is so we're gonna want to get so to get the date, we're gonna do let's do this. Let me go. So here we have the date object, and I'm gonna say const month equals to date dot get month, and const date, const day, let's say, equals to date dot get date. So that will get us the month and the date. And now we want to group together by those. So how will we do that? So we're going to want, in the end of the day, I want this to be an array. I'm this close to caving and asking ChatGPT. I mean, I could do this myself, but I feel like, yeah, I'm gonna ChatGPT it because we've been talking for 2 hours already, and I'm ready to move forward. So, create a JavaScript function that will take an array of an array with a date array of objects with a date property and return a new array with the objects with the objects array, a new array. Well, it needs to be an array of arrays essentially. A new array of arrays of the objects grouped by uh, same day and month. Let's see. Okay, so we have the data. So the data looks kind of like the data that we had. And key into an array. Okay, let's see, what would the above return? see. Okay. Yes, that looks like what we want. Awesome. Okay. So I mean, we have to just double check that it works because with ChatGPT, you never know if it's actually going to work, but this looks very good, and I'm very happy that I asked it to do it and didn't spend. So I just got disconnected. Okay. Are we back? Sorry, OBS connecting and reconnecting. I don't know if it's my internet or the fact that my laptop can like cook an egg now. But yeah, I think we're back online. I Now YouTube is giving me some warnings, so I hope you guys can. Ta-da. Hmm. Okay, I'm gonna keep on talking for a little bit. If it stops working again, like let me know. I'm gonna assume for now that it's working. So basically, I'm just getting rid of all of these comments here inside the new function that I copied from ChatGPT. Um, and I guess this makes it a little harder um, to follow along because like I mean, let me send this function. Well, let me make sure it works. If this function works, I'll send it in the chat so that you can copy it. Um, so let's use this. So I'm using the group by same day and month. And I'm going to do that over here. So I don't need all of this again. I can just say um, const forecast equals 2, group by the same day and month, list, and I'll return this forecast. So let's go ahead and test that. Okay, so we have an array. No, that did not work at all. Not even a little. Um, so data array for each item, key. Let me add in a console log here. Let's see. Console.log grouped. Let's see. Oh, okay. So we got here not a number, not a number. So let me see. Oh, Okay, 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 okay. Let's, I got it. I got it. Why? Okay, because basically it was having this, the function, the function was having the same problem I think that I was having because it's converting the new date from item.date, but we actually want to do here item. Well, first of all, it's item.tt, but also we need to do the times 1,000 here. So again, with ChatGPT, you're always going to need to do like a little bit of work. So I don't like the whole debate about like if programmers are going away. I don't think so. Like I think that yeah, I mean, ChatGPT is a great tool, but you still need to kind of know what you're doing to make it work. So that is an adjustment that I made, and get rid of this log, and go ahead and run this. Okay, so we got an array with 6, which is already great. Here I have 2, but I can't see what the dates are. So annoying. Um, but I'm going to assume that it's correct because it makes sense for now. If we see it not working in the front end, then I'll come back and revisit. But for now, I'm going to assume because this kind of makes sense. Okay, even though it's 6 days and not 5 days. But yeah, maybe like it's 5 days, like because it's midday now, so it's like from midday today till midday 5 days away. So it's like catches the midday of 2 days, something like that. Um, But excellent. I'm going to assume that's working. I'm going to send you the function that I promised. So right over here. Oh no. It's too much. I'm going to have to send it in pieces because you can only write so much in the chat. I'm hosting the live. I can't believe I'm limited to how much I can write in the chat. Um, but I'll give you the first half. First half of the function. No, even that I can't do. Oh, God. Come on, YouTube. Come on. Okay. 3 parts. Function in 3 parts. So one part is coming in, and the second part, and the third part. There we go. Um, yeah. Maybe I should have just sent you the prompt that I gave ChatGPT. That might have been easier. Either way. Um, okay, so we got this. We got a backend function that's kind of working. I'm going to go ahead and replace this back with our parameters. So not the hard-coded coordinates, but rather whatever we'll send in from the front end. And let's head back to our front end and talk a little bit about how we're actually going to display this forecast once we get it. So I'm going to add in another section here just to keep everything nice and clean. And this will be for our forecast. And let me add in some text just to say like forecast. And let me add in a repeater. Okay, because obviously we're going to need a repeater here. The challenge here is that we can't have a repeater inside of a repeater. So that means that let's think about how we're going to approach this. In an ideal world, okay, if we weren't using Wix, I mean, I love Wix, but sometimes this is actually, I think, if I had to like think of all the limitations on Wix, this is probably close to the number one limitation is the not having the repeater in the repeater. And so in an ideal world where we had full reign and full flexibility, we would build like a repeater for the days, and inside of each one of those items, we would be able to also have something repetitive for the forecast for each one of those days. Since we don't have that option, we can essentially go two ways. Well, we can go a few ways. Like we can completely go custom, build a custom element, embed it in an iframe, whatever. We don't have time for that today, and it's probably overkill for this anyways. The second option would be to put something repetitive inside of the repeater. So for example, like I could have text that I populate the text in a repetitive way inside of a repeater, but that would mean that like within each repeater of day, we'd only have the forecast in like text, which is not so great. The third option is to define a set amount for the outer repetitive item. So for example, since we know that we are getting a 5-day forecast, I can just add 5 repeaters. And that way I know that I'm always populating these 5 repeaters. But it kind of limits us to 5-day forecast. Like if we wanted a more day forecast, a forecast of like more than 5 days, then that would be a little problematic. But we could also set up some kind of like pagination, like arrows that like if you click forward, then it'll shift the data in the repeaters to create this feeling like there's more than um, like there's more than one, like there's more than 5. Sorry. Wow. Okay, so what we're going to go with the third approach that I mentioned, and I'm going to add in a few repeaters. I'm going to add in 5 repeaters essentially. Um, and I would definitely recommend designing. So I don't want cards, I want list. Because what we'll do is we'll have like day, day, day with like hour, 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 hour. If you manage to see my hand there. And you'll see it in a moment as well, actually inside the forecast. So here, this would be for one day. And let's already think about kind of how we want this to be designed a little bit, because we're going to be copying this 5 times and we want it to be designed perfectly before we actually do the copying. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in some text. This is going to be for the temperature. Temp, and let's change this to, just make sure I'm not zoomed in, I don't know, heading 6 or something. And I'm going to put this over here. Oh, wait, should we have, oh no. Yeah, temp. Temp is one thing we're going to want to have. We'll also want to have the time, okay, because that's a very important factor of what we're doing here. So let me just get more text here. And this will be time. And the time I'll make maybe not bold, or I'll make not heading 6 or whatever. Yeah, I'm not using these so correctly, but we'll have the time here because I'm deciding that the time is less important than the temperature, because the temperature is what's actually like, that's what we're all about. We're about the weather. And we might also want, let me think about what else we might want here. We might also want to like say, you know, a verbal, like we didn't do this for the current weather yet, but like we might have like a verbal explanation of what the weather is, like cloudy, overcast, something like that. So I'll do that here as well. So um, so I'll change this. I'll say, let's say description. And I'll make this also, let's say paragraph 2. And yeah, I'll put it next to it, put it all side by side. And the last thing I'm going to add in is an image. So for when we actually implement those icons, so we'll actually be able to have an image here. So let me grab an image, and I'm going to make it small, and I'm going to make it a square. Let's see. That already is cut to square. Let's make it, yeah. Let me just adjust it here. That would be the easiest. So I'll make it, let's say 50 by 50. Is that too big? Maybe 40 by 40. Okay. And I'll put that over here. And now we need to like format this so that this actually works. So let me, I'm going to want to put all this in a container essentially. And this is the design part of the of the tutorial. Put this on a container, and I personally prefer using the advanced one because I'm kind of just used to it from editor X. So that's over here. I'm just going to determine like some columns and some rows and stuff. So I'm going to add in, I'm going to make it 4 columns so that each of our elements can be in its own column. And now let me kind of reassign them. So that will be there. That will be there. That will be... Oh, I see I have 2 temps now. This I don't need. What is that? And this, okay, so that's in the first one. Layer panel. Text, text. Oh, that's not even in my, what's going on here? What's going on here? Let me grab that. Paste it in here. There we go. And yeah, I'm curious to hear from the people watching if like if what I'm doing now interests you less, more, or equal to what we've been doing until now. So like until now we've been doing like a lot of the code, a lot of planning, a lot of understanding API, stuff like that. I'm curious if like this designing part like is also interesting, or it's just kind of like um, yeah, I'll know how much to focus on this as opposed to the other stuff that we've been doing. And now I'll just make these. So for this, I'm also going to use the advanced sizing, just again, because that's what I'm used to. So I'm going to make this 100% and 100%. Let's do also custom sizing. And this also, yeah, 100%. And this also 100%. And the height, let's also make 100%. Awesome. And now let's adjust this container. So width will also be 100%, put it center. And all of these, let's also center everything. Repeaters are almost everyday objects, so I'm not interested as other factors go. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. I respect that. Yeah, we'll be done with this in a moment. Just gonna get it somewhat normal looking, and then we can move on to other parts of the tutorial. Okay, and the container, so the height of the container will be determined here by this. So this will be, let's say, min content. No, for this, actually, I want it to be fixed. Let's do pixels. 50. 50. Okay. It ain't beautiful, but it works. And it should work like also like if we change the screen size, then it should still play relatively nicely. Yeah, so this will be one of our days. This will be one of our days. And what I'll do is I'll put out, let me put out 3 days. I don't think we need all 5 days to demonstrate what we're doing here. So let me put out 1, 2. I'm realizing that these are kind of wide. Make it a little smaller. And that, like, don't pay too much attention that like it's wrapping and whatnot, because anyways, that's not what's actually going to be written there. It's going to have an actual temperature. It's going to have an actual description and whatnot. So I'm going to put that 1, 2, 3. And we'll probably also want to have like some text above it that will say, let's say the day of the week and the date, right? Um, so let's say, let's add a text. I'll change this to be, I don't know, heading 5. And I'll change this to like date. And I'll put one of them here. And I'll put one of them here. And I'll put one of them here. Um, yeah, and like these, okay, so like in an ideal situation, like if I was going to work now another hour on design here, so these would also be put into a container together, and then all of these would also be put into their own container, just to make sure that we like preserve all the relationships between all the elements. Um, but I usually like to focus more on like making sure the data works and making sure the logic works, and then design can uh, can come after. Unless I'm working like on a team and there's a designer and a developer. In that case, sometimes I often prefer to do the design first, because it can teach about what the data should be doing as well, like if there's a set design. So it just, based on personal preference slash what the project requires. Awesome. So we have all this set up, and we're ready to do some naming. And now that I think about it, I wonder if I would have done the naming. Let me see if I could do like a little bit of a naming hack here. Let's see. So this is going to be our forecast date 1, let's say. And this is going to be the forecast date 2. And this is going to be the forecast date 3. I'm editing over here, by the way, for those of you who didn't see. And then we have the repeaters. This will be, let's say, hourly forecast repeater 1, 1, and this will be hourly forecast repeater 2, and this will be hourly forecast repeater 3, and then here we'll have forecast time 1. Yeah, I know this is a very fascinating part of the tutorial. If somebody has a good joke, this would be like a great time to tell it. Or if you guys have like any questions or just thoughts about what we're doing here today. So this would be forecast temp 1, and here as well, temp 2, and temp 3. And this will be our forecast description 1, and forecast description 2, and forecast description 3. And last but not least, thank you. Oh no, shoot, what did I just? For those of you who have been so patient, we're up to the icon. So this will be forecast icon 1, and oh God. Forecast icon 2, and forecast icon 3. Uh, yeah, and like if you're having hard time selecting the stuff and like just like I was having like a frustrated like getting frustrated with that, then what I like to do is also use the panel here. So just this can make it a little easier to select the stuff. I just sometimes forget to use it, but once I get frustrated enough, I remember. Um, awesome. So we've done all the naming and we are ready to write some more code. So what we're going to do is here inside of our, so we already set up fetch forecast, which is awesome. And here we have the forecast. And what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to we'll start with one repeater. We'll set up one repeater. And once we get that, then we'll scale the approach to all the repeaters. So first, we're going to give instructions to the repeater for how to set itself up. We might separate this into another function later on, but so I'm going to select the forecast repeater. Oh, hourly forecast repeater 1 dot on item ready. And here we're going to have item and item data. And yeah, so let's select each of those items. So we're going to have item time. And we're going to have item temperature. And we're going to have the item description. And we're going to have the item icon, which we're going to do later once we do the whole icon thing. So that might take us forecast icon. Where's forecast icon 1? I feel like, did I not? Yeah, I guess I misnamed something. Let me go check. What's this? What's this called? No, I guess I didn't name it. Forecast icon 1. Okay. Okay, over here. So here we're going to have item data. And so this is going to be .text, and this is going to be .text, and this is going to be .text as well. And what we're going to do now is we're going to use the item data, which we need to see again what that looks like. So if I go geoencoding, 5-day weather forecast. So list.main.temp. So list.main.temp. So this is going to be equal to item data dot main. Sorry, that's the time. This is the temp. Item data dot main dot temp, but we need to use our functions that we built out before. So we're going to get, what was it? Get temp based on mode. And we're going to convert that to string. Next, we're going to have our forecast time. So that's item data dot dt. But we need to convert that. So that's going to be so we'll say const date equals to new date item data dot dt times 1,000. And here we're going to have date dot get time. Number, that's going to be a number. Time value in milliseconds dot, oh come on please, get locale time. Oh, yeah. Okay, for now I'm going to be lazy. Let's say get hours. Oh, that's going to be a number. Okay, not so lazy. Get UTC hours. But no, I don't want UTC hours. I'm going to say get regular hours. Get hours. And then we're going to have here date dot get minutes. Okay, let's see what happens with that. And for the description, let me go ahead back to our docs. Feels like, no, that's not what we want. List.weather, list.description, or main. List.weather.main equals to item data dot weather dot main. Okay, and now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to assign the first item in the array that's returned in the forecast to this repeater. So I'm going to select the repeater, and I'm going to say dot data equals to forecast 0. And now let's see what happens. So let me zoom out. I'm going to publish, and I'm going to give this here a refresh. Ah, okay. Classic, classic. This is great. This is really great because this is becoming very educational. So um, when we are assigning data to a repeater, every item needs to have a random ID. So what I'm going to do is, typically in an ideal world, well, we could do one of two things. We could go the long way, which is the short way, or the short way, which is the long way. One idea that I had is we could just convert the timestamps into a string, and because we know that each timestamp is going to be unique, then those would just be unique IDs. A more general approach, because you don't know what data you're going to get, and like each API returns different stuff, and it could be that you won't have something that's unique between each item that you can use. So what I typically would do is install UUID, which is what I'll do now also, because it's the right way to go. So what we'll do here is I'm going to go to packages. Packages, where are you? Oh, packages. And I'm going to go here to npm, and I'm going to install an npm package. And I'm going to look here for UUID. It's funny, I recently just saw this YouTube video of somebody who was like bashing UUID and like how bad it is. I don't know. I think it's fine. Like how that's not the right way to create IDs or something. Basically, it's a package that just like creates unique IDs. So we're going to be using this one. So let me go to the front end and I'm going to import that package up here. I thought I copied. Okay, import v4 as UUID v4 from UUID. I think that's right. So now what I can do is I can go right over here where we're assigning the data. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to map this. So it'll include the forecast. Oh no, let's say map, and I'll say here item. And then what I'm going to return is the item. So we want to preserve all the data that we already have, but we also want to add in an ID, which is going to be a UUID. And it's just it's just going to be a random string of numbers, like 1B659, blah, 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 whatever. Okay. And then we can go ahead and publish this again and refresh. Amazing. So, yeah, I mean, it's, let me kind of, so I don't see descriptions, which makes me think maybe I didn't get that from the right place, but here I forgot to do the to fixed. So that's why it's coming out like that, but we do have the times here. The minutes are 0, so it gave like just the number 0 and not like 00. So there's a lot of like formatting and playing around that we have to do here. I'm really going to try and focus on the core stuff. So let's get this to fixed because that's really a problem. And let's figure out why the description wasn't coming. So this, instead of toString, this is going to be toFixed. Even though we already saw that toFixed is not ideal here, but again, I'm trying to like prioritize. So that's one thing. And this .weather.main. So what I'll do here is I'll add in here console.log item data, just so we can see what the data is in its entirety and if there is a description, if we missed it or there isn't one. And I'm going to go ahead here and I'm going to publish. And then I will refresh. Okay, so this is looking better here. And let's see, so here we have the item data being logged. And I have weather. It's an array. It's an array. So it means that all I have to do here is go ahead and say weather 0 main. Okay, publish that, give it a refresh. Give it another refresh. There we go. Okay, so we got clouds right over here, so that's good. Okay, so we got this. Oh, we didn't do the date here up top. Yeah, so we'll do that in a moment. I do want to take a slight detour because I do want to talk about the icons because I think we have like about another 20 minutes on the live just because I'm going to cap it at 3 hours. I think that's that's just about as much time as I can talk straight without losing my voice. So I do want to talk about the icons, just not leave you hanging on that. And then hopefully we'll still have time to fix up a few of these things here. If not, then you'll have homework. So let's talk about the icons. So within OpenWeather, we have they have their like own icon kind of API, I guess. So let me just search OpenWeather icons. Here, weather conditions. So basically, so how to get the icon. Basically, the URL is this. And all we need to do is to replace the name essentially of the icon. Yeah, so for code 500, light rain icon is 10D. So that means we just need to replace this like 10D that you see over here, and that will get us the corresponding icon. So I'm going to grab this right over here, this URL. And this we can also this we can do on the front end because it's just getting an image. We don't need, it's not really calling a third-party API. So I'm going to create a function. Let's do this over here. So I'm going to say function get weather icon. And we'll take in here the icon code, let's call it. And I'm going to return this, but here instead of 10D, we're going to have the icon code. Okay, so we have that for getting the icons. And now what we need to do here is get weather icon. So for here, let's say, so we could already implement this in our repeater. So forecast icon 1 dot source equals to get weather icon. And here we're going to need to pass in item data dot something. And now I need to figure out what that something is. So I think it's the weather condition. Oh, here, weather icon ID. So list dot weather 0 icon. So let's go ahead and do that. So list item data dot weather 0 dot icon. Okay, so let's take a look at that. What did I just do? Are we still live streaming? I hope. Yeah, okay. Let me go ahead and publish. I don't know what I just clicked there. Publish that, and I'm going to go ahead and hit refresh here. Okay, I don't see the icon. I don't see the icons. So let me just do like a small test here. Make sure I understood this correctly. So weather, oh God, weather icon. Let's see, weather, yeah. Get weather icon. Return. Let me see. So I'm going to grab this URL. I'm going to put it in the browser. And uh, hi Swastik. My age is a secret. No, I'm just kidding. Is that relevant to the weather app, or is that just a general question? Okay, so I'm going to, where is that icon? Icon code. Live site icon. So it's 04D. And I'm going to put that right over here. 04D. 04D. Yeah, and it came back with the icon. Okay, so that is the right logic, but why did it not get the icons? Forecast icon dot source. Let me log this. Let me make sure. Let me see. Oh. There we go. It doesn't look so great with the gray on gray with the clouds and whatnot, but yeah, I mean, you could definitely see that it's you have the icons there. So we got that. So let's add a main icon here for our, I want to add description and icon for what we have up here. So let's go ahead and do that. I feel like our app is kind of lacking without that. So I'm going to go ahead, let me add in an image. it's going to be for our icon here. So this will be, let's say, 200 by 200. What? 200. And yeah, let's go ahead and under here, let's add in description. Okay, description, and let's change this to say paragraph 1. So this will be our description, current weather description. And you'll notice, like, as I'm building out the application, I'm realizing, okay, like this needs a more distinct name because we have descriptions in another place, or we have something. So like sometimes it's hard to think of all of these things in advance, like create naming for everything in advance. But as you're building, you like in retrospect understand, okay, this would be a better name for this. And then might even want to go back and change things. So like this, I called weather. This might be better as like current weather temperature or something like that. So it's an important part of the development. Like it shouldn't be discounted. We're just a little clutch for time, so I'm not going to go back and change names, but it's something that I would do if I was building this project to production. And here, this will be our current weather icon. And let's do both of those when we do the populate current weather. Populate current weather. So here we'll say that it's a good guess. 27 is not far. Uh, weather. So this is current weather description dot text equals to current weather dot main dot weather 0 dot, I think it was description. No, what was it called? Oh no, sorry. Current dot weather 0 dot main, maybe. And then the current weather, let me make sure I'm zoomed in here. I don't think I was. Current weather icon dot source equals to current weather dot weather dot, oh no, here, that's not, maybe it's different because it's, one second. Documentation. I must read the documentation. Okay. Let me get rid of this. I don't need that. Don't need that. I do want the documentation. Yeah, no point in guessing when it's all written. Current weather response. So we have weather. Yeah, so it's weather.main. And yeah, weather.main, weather.icon. So it's current weather.weather 0.icon. And if I go ahead and I publish that, hopefully we'll see all that lovely stuff here. For some reason, the icons are taking the icons are like they're refusing to play well. One thing that I'm noticing here though, oh wait, 1 second. Source. Maybe I did get that wrong then. 1 second. Oh, I know what I did wrong. So here, I just passed in the string, like that ID of the icon, but we need to use the actual functions. We need to use get weather icon. Yeah, so like that. Awesome. and refresh that. So one note here is that typically what I would do is I would keep everything collapsed or hidden until the data comes in. Because now you can see like we see this like weird kind of unpopulated template. But we don't want users to see that because it doesn't look good. We want them to see like some kind of like loading icon or something like that. So I would typically just collapse everything, put a loading icon, and then once the data actually comes in, then reveal everything. Um, okay, so we have a few more minutes. Let's finish up our forecast. So we need to add the dates here. So let's do that. So fetch forecast. So in addition to this, over here we also have the date. So this is the forecast. Let's see, date, forecast date 1 dot text. So that we want to be equal to that we want to be equal to, let's see, so date, so how, well, for the date of, because remember we have an array with a lot of different hours, but we know that they're all the same day, and uh, they're all the same date because that's how we divided them essentially. So we could just get the first one and use the date from it. So what I could say is const date equals to new date. Okay, Reed, I'll address your question in one moment. So new date equals to forecast, let's say, 0.dt times 1,000. And then what we'll do here is we will say we'll just do this. So we'll say dot text equals date dot to locale date string. So being pretty lazy on that. Let me just check that. Uh, what did I do wrong? Forecast 0 dot dt. Forecast 0. Hmm. Oh, it should be forecast. It should be forecast 0, 0. Because remember that forecast is an array with with arrays. So forecast 0, 0. Okay. And whoops, gonna publish that. And just not published. No, I don't believe you. I don't believe that it's still invalid. Let me see. There we go. Okay, so here you can see the date now. You might also want to put like the day of the week or something like that. But that's the date. Next, so I'm just going to answer Reed's question. What's the hook for knowing when all the remote references are loaded? So unfortunately, there isn't really a hook for that. What I usually do, let me show it. Let me demonstrate it because I think it is something important. So I mean, there's different levels of how you can do it. I'm going to show you like the most lazy one. So what I'll do here is I'll add in a Lottie file, Lottie animation, and I'll call this loader, let's say. And it'll be showing by default. And these two sections I will call, let's say, um, current weather section, And then this one will be forecast section. And then what I'll do is, so you'll see here that in this function, so we are, here we're waiting for like all the data, and we also have populate current weather, which I don't think is, either way, it's not a promise, but basically what we could do here is that after all of our page content is loaded, then we can expand the two sections. So current weather section dot expand, and also do the same for the forecast. So like here, it's not very nuanced. Forecast section. Maybe it just didn't confirm the name yet. Forecast section dot expand, and we'll also want to make sure that both of them are collapsed by default. So the current weather section collapsed by default, and the forecast section is collapsed by default. And then if I go ahead and I publish this, then yeah, wait for it to publish. What's going on? No, this is not. Oh, dot expand is not a function. Do I have a bug in my code? Let's see. What's this? Current weather section, forecast section. Do I have dot expand somewhere else as well? Dot expand. No. Why is that not a function? Maybe sections. Can sections not be collapsed and expanded? No, they definitely can be. This is weird. Hmm. Current weather section. If anybody sees what I'm doing wrong, please let me know. I think my mind is already half melted here. It's weird because I don't even, it's not even loading this. Let me try publishing it again. I don't know. There's something's acting up here because I'm not, like, it's not even showing the no, there's something very, very weird going on. Let me try opening an incognito window. Might be some kind of caching thing. No, this is very weird. Very weird. 1 second. Crazy here. It's like it's not getting the most recent version of the site for some reason, or it's not publishing the site. Um, Yeah, I let me try commenting these out and publishing. Okay, that I think published, but it's weird. I don't see the Lottie file. Yeah, I'm not gonna go crazy about it because we do need to wrap up. But what I just did should work. Um, yeah, but basically that's the approach that I would take. So I have this loader, and then here, so I would expand the two sections, and then maybe like collapse the loader as well. So like loader dot collapse maybe. And this is like a very coarse way of doing it. You could also do it like in a more nuanced way. So like as each of the elements data comes in, so like reveal them. So like once the weather, current weather comes in, then show that. And like once, like in a slightly more nuanced way, let's say maybe per repeater or something like that. But generally, generally, yeah, that's the approach. Unfortunately, there's no hook to like know that all the data has loaded. You just have to like wait, because like I know that here we're waiting for the current weather. So like once that moves to the next line in the JavaScript, it means the data came in. Um, yeah, so that's basically the approach that I would take. And as I said, we're gonna have to start wrapping up soon. Unfortunately, it's not on a very high note with the application not completely working um, as we would want it to in terms of the loading. Uh, but yeah, anyway, and in terms of the repeaters, so what we would want to do is to um, apply what we did with one repeater to all the repeaters. And I'm not going to do it right now because we're really out of time. But the general approach would be to do, so like what I showed here for the modes. So modes dot for each. So I would have a repeater, sorry, I would have an array with, let's say, the numbers 1, 2, 3. And then I would just loop through it and run this pretty much everything in this function except for the actual fetching of the forecast. Okay, so the forecast we only need to get once, and then this logic for the repeater and pushing the data to the repeater needs to be run again and again and again. Um, Ideally through an array and not by hard coding it for each individual one. So that's kind of how I would wrap this up in terms of the repeaters. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with what we did. There's one more feature which I was kind of thinking of, which we didn't get to, which is the searching. And the way that that searching would work is essentially we would use the geoencoder, just in case that's a feature you're thinking of implementing, is to provide here the city name, and then you'd get back the coordinates essentially somewhere within this response. And then here, lat lon, and then you can use those to get the weather for that specific place. So you could allow your users also to not only see the weather right where they are, but see other locations as well, which is pretty typical of a weather app. We also didn't get much into styling. Maybe next time I should come with something kind of pre-styled. I thought we would get into it together, but like, yeah, I mean, it just takes so much time. So just to wrap up what we've done, we built a full stack weather app on Wix Studio using the OpenAI OpenWeather API. We are displaying the current weather for a specific location by gathering the user's location data, sending it to the API, getting back information about the weather, and displaying it. We also created the ability to switch between two modes, Celsius and Fahrenheit. We didn't apply it yet to the forecast, but we could easily do that as well. We also saw how we can get forecasts, so several days forward, format that data, send it to the front end, and use repeaters in order to show that repeating data. We talked about how to get the icons, and all of this is quite specific to this API that we were using, but I think that we also touched on a lot of cool principles that would help you do the same thing with another API as well. So I hope you enjoyed. I hope you found this informative. And again, I just want to remind you, for those of you who are still on, about the new channel memberships. So please do check that out. I am going to send here in the chat, and I'll also kind of pin the comment after. For some reason, the chat is kind of weird in terms of like how things are sent in it. But I'm going to just send you some links that are related to the community announcements that I made earlier. And oh, again, I'm hitting the the limits. So let me do these one at a time. And I appreciate all of you who are sticking around. I saw there were like consistently about 8 people who were here the whole entire time. Did I close that? I think I might have accidentally closed that window. Let me try opening a notepad. Um, yeah, I saw that there were like 8 people who were here like consistently the entire time, so I do appreciate that. And I'm happy to hear, thank you, Reed, that you enjoyed. So I'm just sending the links here. The first one is to our forum, where you can always post questions that you have. I appreciate comments on the videos in general, but sometimes the comments are either non-descriptive or overly descriptive, and it's hard to answer in that format. So it's best to just post it with all the info to the forum. I'm sending you the link here for the Velo for Beginners course. And I realized I didn't even mention this in the community announcements, but I have actually started recording the next course. So the next level course, I didn't call it Velo Intermediate Velo. I'm not going to call it Advanced Velo either, because I think that there's another level even beyond the course that I'm creating now. But it's actually called How to Build a Full Stack Web App with Wix Studio. So basically what we did today is really a preview. It's like that course in a nutshell, but there's really tons more stuff that we haven't talked about. And it won't be a weather app, it'll be something a little more expansive. So that's also some community news that I completely forgot to tell you about. This is the memberships link. David, thank you. Thank you very much for watching. And these are, I think I sent these already, but I'll send them again. These are the links for plans, and this is the link for the affiliate program, which if any of you, again, are running some kind of agency or something and you want to work together, then we'd love to talk. So that is a wrap for today. I'm going to go drink a huge glass of water and probably chill and play on my phone for a bit. Thank you all again for coming, and I will see you next time.